Welcome on in. It's the NBA tip-off show for Thursday, November 30th. Dan Alexander here. So yes, as you've guessed by now, no Joe Ranieri, but I will try and give these guys as much grief as possible so you won't miss Joe too much. I got a great crew here with me. I got Steve Merrill, Andy Lang, and Rob Vino holding it down. So gentlemen, I say we get right into it. The peeps aren't here to listen to me go on and on. They're here to get some plays. So let's start. Even though Joe is off, as I said the last time I was filling in, the Contrarian gods never take off. And they are eyeing a team that just got boat raced by my Philadelphia 76ers. That's right. It's the Los Angeles Lakers catching the 5.5 against OKC. As I mentioned, the Lakers, they're coming off of a loss. OKC coming off of a loss as well. Not so resoundingly as the Lakers did. Steve, I want to get your thoughts. What are you eyeing as the Contrarian gods are saying the Lakers, even off the blowout, are worth the play? Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers are a team that's alternated wins and losses their last 5 games. That's probably not a
Mm.
surprise. It's a team that knows load management very well with LeBron the past few seasons. And it's a no rest situation now. Their third game also in 4 nights this week. Monday, Wednesday, now Thursday. So that does have to concern you a bit. And they're coming off an easy win on top of that against the Detroit Pistons last night. So it does look like a good bounce back spot for OKC here, especially after back-to-back losses against your Sixers, and also the T-Wolves have been as good as anybody in the NBA. So 2 quality losses as a dog in both of those games. A little bit of a step down in class. Hard to believe the Lakers are a step down in class, but they're about a 6-point favorite. The last time we saw them in this price range, the 2 games before those losses, OKC won outright by, 43 points as a 7-point favorite at Portland, and also won by 14 at home as a 7-point favorite against the Bulls. So I like Oklahoma City Thunder -6 in this game.
Ooh, starting out the gate, flipping the middle finger to the Contrarian gods. What can go wrong for our man Steve Merrill as the show continues? Yeah, I think hearing thunder, earthquakes. That's probably just
Thunderstorms.
because I live in California for the earthquakes, for what it's worth. All right, Andy, what are you thinking in this one? First, thoughts on the Contrarian gods. We already got one guy saying, forget them, while Joe isn't here. I have to pass along the message that he won't be happy about that one. But Andy, thoughts as far as the 5.5, the 6 go, and anything popping out to you as far as the props are concerned?
Yeah, there's a couple things that pop out. One, there was a very, very subtle thing that happened in the intro to that show, and I have so much admiration for you Philly guy. Somehow you made this Lakers game. You got a Philly mention in there. It is absolutely unbelievable how you guys can just so naturally, just the world revolves around us. You're like, oh yeah,
That's fair.
Philly beat them. Yeah, it's like, wait,
Fair.
Philly? Are they involved in this? No. So no, I do like the points. I'll go with the contrarian gods here on
Mm.
this one. So yeah, the Lakers are on a back to back, but nobody played more than 30 minutes last night except D'Angelo Russell. So I don't think they're going to be as fatigued as a normal back to back where LeBron and AD, if they were going to have to play 36, 37 minutes. And then you look at this Thunder team, and so they win 6 in a row. But they beat the Suns with no Devin Booker. San Antonio, they beat Golden State twice. Once they needed OT, and this Golden State team is really struggling. They beat Portland and Chicago, but then they step up in competition and they lose to Philadelphia, and they also lose to Minnesota. So this is not a team I'm ready to lay points with against. So I'm going to roll with the Lakers here on this one. The Lakers are going to be off Friday. Then they have a Saturday game against Houston. Then they have Sunday and Monday off. So I think they try pretty hard in this one, and I'll be happy to take those points. I do have a prop I like in this one. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not
Mm.
making a joke, but I do like Josh Giddey under a half a made 3-pointer. He's gone under in 5 out of 16 games this year. Last 2 games, he's only attempted 1 in each game. So, he's barely getting any attempts. So it's a pretty good price. Just don't see him attempting a whole lot of 3-pointers. So I'll take under made 3-pointer from him.
Yeah, my best bet going to be Josh Giddey under 18. I'm not sure. Points, rebounds, what? I'm just going Josh
There we
Giddey
go.
under 18. Yeah, I had to. You teed it up too well. So you're looking at taking the points, agreeing with the Contrarian gods. going with Los Angeles, which is approximately 2,700 miles away from Philadelphia. Had to work it in there as well, Andy. All right, speaking outside of Philadelphia, my man Rob Vino going to get the final word here on the contrarian play of the day. It's the Lakers catching the points. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I'll say this, Dan. Yesterday on the show, all three panelists, we all unzipped and let loose on the contrarian gods, and we got away with it. We definitely got away with it. And it was this particular team, the LA Lakers, right? We all backed the Lakers. The contrarian play was the other side, Detroit, which has just been an absolute mess from the get-go here under Monty Williams. But the Lakers were also off of, as you mentioned, Dan, the 44-point loss to Philly, and had a little pride to play for, and they did. But I think that, these teams are always schedule staring, looking ahead, and they saw Oklahoma City on deck back-to-back with travel, and the one we'll get is the one against Detroit. Maybe we won't get that one against Oklahoma City. I don't think they do, to tell you the truth. OKC 9-2-1 against the spread in their last 12-4-1 overall this season against the spread. So even though we've seen Oklahoma City Thunder, where the odds makers are concerned, priced very differently and more favorably, they still continue to cover point spreads, right? They were a darling for the last 2 years as underdogs and heavy ones at that. But now they're in these competitive price ranges, and they still are continuing to cover spreads. They're 6-3 at home. I would tend to agree with what Steve said earlier, where load management is concerned. And then you also have to take into consideration what Andy said about light minutes last night. But it's not all that often that this Laker duo it plays back-to-back heavy minutes. LeBron was questionable last night. Of course, he's questionable just about every night. But that being said, I do wonder if the first half gets away with them. Do they have any heart to come back second half or play these guys second half with the travel? Late in this game, guys, is where you could really see Oklahoma City pull away because, again, it's a team with a rotation that runs about 10, 11 deep with a lot of young legs, as opposed to the Lakers, who may get tired out after one half. So I'm going to lay the 5.5 here. I don't think the contrarian guys are on the right side of this one. Can we do it 2 nights in a row? I'm not sure, but I'll say this. It's not a 3-panel sweep here because Andy did stick up for the contrarian. So Joe doesn't need to be notified. Otherwise, he'd have 17 apps open right now betting the other way. But I do think OKC gets the cover here.
No, I might not let Joe know, but I will let him know his brother from another mother, for my man Ski, Rob Vino, is going against his Lakers. I will send that message. That I will do, Rob. But all right, so we got two guys saying forget the contrarian gods. Andy Lang saying, I think they might be on to something. Hop below in the comments and let us know where you land on that one. As we turn the page on over to our featured matchup this evening, and we got the Pacers and the Heat. I'm going to ask all three of you guys, we got any update as far as you guys are seeing on Jimmy Butler? I've been refreshing Twitter. I know we got Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo, Highsmith, all those guys. They're going to be available. I'm still seeing the Q next to Jimmy Butler's name. So is that what you're seeing as well, Steve Merrill? And what do you think in this featured matchup?
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now at 4:25 Eastern. It opened 2.5. It's 2.5 across the board. And the total also, sitting around 238, opened about 2, actually, 2.5 now across the board. The total was 239.5, down to 238, I think, with some of that uncertainty. But we got to talk about the total here. I did some college football videos this week. Also did my top 25 video this afternoon. And of course, I talked about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Historically bad offense, good defense. They've been under machines. And it's the exact opposite here with the Indiana Pacers, who have been just over machines. And as with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they keep setting the totals lower, and everyone says, oh, they got to go over eventually. Well, they've gone under 7 straight with that logic going back to like early October. And Pacers are in that same role as well. What was it, 12 or 13 straight overs, 14-1 to start the season. Well, they finally went under the total against the worst offensive team in the NBA in their last game on Monday. And they only scored 114. Portland got 114. Indiana only got 110, stayed well under the 240. But I'm not looking to buck that trend. I don't think it's necessarily broken, and Indiana is well rested. I look for a fast-paced game here, and if Miami is shorthanded, this could become a playground game, actually. All these guys can score, even the backups, even the G League guys. And if Miami is really shorthanded, if Butler doesn't play, I actually like the over more for that reason. This line will probably continue to drop.
Yeah, lose that defense. Yeah, no, you lose that defense without Butler for sure. All right, well, points in bunches. A prop better has to love that if he's looking to find some overs. What do you think in this one? It looks like the chat's starting to light up and like the heat in this one. So as far as the side's concerned, total, any thoughts there, Andy? But we want Lang's thoughts on props in this matchup for the featured game. What are you thinking?
Well, if we're going by, there's a theory about if the books have props numbers out on a player, it's a good sign he's playing, and they do have lines out on Jimmy Butler. So, 23 and a half points is the line. So take that for what it's worth here. The books do have lines out there, but I'm not willing to trust it. Now, if I'm not willing to trust it, it's just kind of a stay away for me. I just don't have a good read if Jimmy Butler's out. There is a prop, believe it or not, it's an under, and that's Buddy Hield going under 7.5 rebounds plus assists. This is a Pacers team that uses a lot of guys. I came on the show and said take Obi Toppin over his points last time I was on here. He has 7 points in the first quarter, and he ends up only playing 19 minutes. They just rotate, and no foul trouble or anything. They just rotate a lot of guys. So the stats are kind of spread a little thin outside of the assist from Halliburton. He's gone under this total in 10 straight games, and he's only had over 4 rebounds, assists in this category in 8 out of those 10 games. Miami 10th best against rebounding, so very, very high number on Buddy Hield for his rebounds and assists, and I'm not really seeing what's going on in the rotation, why he would have a spike in this category. So a lot of guys that can rebound. Of course, a lot of the assists are going to come from Halliburton, so I'll take Buddy Hield under rebounds and assists.
Love the breakdown there. And we also have Brian in the chat mentioning that he thinks Bam Adebayo might be worth a look on the boards. As a quote, Bam board should slap and handicap. I like that out of our man, Brian. All right, Rob, when I was prepping up for the show, Joe just mentioned me and he was like, hey, if you ever worry about Rob going on too long, just say, Rob, we know you have the over. Let's move on to the next game. Is that the case here? Are we looking at the over, or do you have something else that you're eyeing?
Well, we could say I have the over, but I have the Pacers team total over here, Dan. I just think that was priced too low, 118.5. Now, whether Jimmy Butler plays or not, you guys have already mentioned, if he doesn't play, Miami lacks a little more defense. But you just take a look at Indiana. 10 of the last 12 games, they've been over 118.5. To me, this thing seems to be priced a little bit low. And to me, they can force tempo upon Miami. Indiana's only going to play one way. And it is interesting that this is a Rick Carlisle coach team and that Rick Carlisle's been here a couple of years now, and they just get faster and faster and more offensive minded and more offensive minded. It's certainly not his MO throughout his career, but it's the way this team is built. It's what they do best. And I think that Indiana probably, even on the opponent's home floor, for the course of 48 minutes can get, their share of stretches where this game is up and down. They'll fall into it, especially, I think it was mentioned ahead of me that if Butler doesn't play, Miami could get even quicker. I think that's the case here. So for me, Indiana gives up easy baskets on one end. Other team doesn't usually take too much possession time to score on them, so the ball just gets thrown back in bounds and down the floor and score again. 118.5 again. It just seems like until Indiana's priced, more sizably than that, I'll take my chances with them going over. I think they get to 120 plus here. Total would indicate that that's where this game is headed. So I'll take the Pacers team total over 118.5.
Well, guys, it's almost like we slipped into a little overtime chat there outside of the under for the boards that Andy Lang was mentioning for Buddy Hield. But let's do a little official overtime. We got the Hawks and the Spurs. This one opened at around 22:44.5. And even in some spots, we're starting to see 248 and the hook popping up as the Spurs and the Hawks are facing off. So it's appropriate, Steve Merrill, that I'll have you lead off our overtime segment because it seems like you're always working overtime here at WagerTalk. You're going to be filling in for Prez on WagerTalk today. Thank God for that. Coming up here for what seems like it'll be like a fortnight. You'll be filling in for him. But as far as this game, our overtime segment between the Hawks and Spurs, how are you looking to bet it, Steve?
Yeah, we talked about the Pacers being a pure over team this season, right? Well, the Spurs, surprisingly, are pretty close. They're 12-5 over. Now, I shouldn't say surprisingly. They're a terrible defensive team. I guess I'd say surprising because they're not quite as good offensively at times, and they're a really bad team overall. They've now lost 12 in a row straight up, and they've only covered twice during that 12-game losing streak. And something that's been hitting pretty obviously is the over. I believe they were like about a 7-5 over run during that streak, but they're now in the season 12-5 to the over after 17 games. So not looking to buck the Spurs as far as overs go. And one thing about really bad offenses like the Iowa Hawkeyes, you can't just fix that. Not so sure you can really fix bad defenses either. And it's a young team, and the mindset they're playing with just does not help. And they are scoring some points at time, but they're giving up even more. That's why they've lost 12 straight, and that likely continues tonight. And Atlanta also one of the weaker defensive teams in the league. They're giving up 49.5% shooting on the season. So whenever you get two really bad defensive teams, it's over or pass for me. You might say, well, the total's too high, and we've talked about this earlier. Highest totals go over, the lowest totals go under more times than not. So is this an over or pass if you're looking at this game?
Over or pass, says our man Steve Merrill. Andy, I'm wondering what you're thinking as far as the props go in this one. Anyone who was betting overs on Trae Young recently, they weren't too happy. 13 points, 3 of 14 shooting, couldn't find it from behind the arc. Do we say he's slumping? Do we say he's coming back? Or are you eyeing somebody else in the prop market?
Well, as far as Trey goes, it's actually, I'm glad you brought him up, because when you play someone like Trey Young, you play him in streaks. So you're not trying to go 8-0. That's not normally sustainable. That's, once in a while. But when you have someone like Trey Young and they have those really huge totals, you're trying to go like 7-2. So, and you're going to have those outliers where he just has a bad shooting game. He was crushing his 3-point props, and you're not going to hit every single game. So when you play someone like Trey Young, if you think he's hitting a hot streak, don't abandon him after one game. Like keep going with him, and hope to get that like 6-1 or 7-2 streak. But actually, the one that jumped out to me, believe it or not, I'm taking an under, and I'm taking the Spurs under 120.5 on their team total. They've gone over this in 1 out of 17 games this season. That was an insane game against Phoenix where Wembanyama scored 38 points. And this Atlanta team, teams like Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell, they can go over. Indiana goes over against them. There's another team that goes over, Philadelphia, when they have the firepower to do that. I just don't think that Spurs have the firepower to do that. The last 10 games, San Antonio has the worst offensive rating in the league. This is a massive, massive total. I know Atlanta is not very good at defense, but does San Antonio have the horses to get to 121? I don't think so. I think Atlanta lays the smackdown. I like them to win comfortably. And I take the Spurs to keep going under this team total.
See, and that time Andy was the one that worked in Philadelphia. I had nothing to do with that, but don't worry, Andy. I will send you the Venmo that I told you I would for mentioning Philadelphia some way, somehow. All right, Rob, you're going to get the final say here as far as this total goes. Andy thinks San Antonio might have an issue contributing to this high total we're seeing. What do you think as far as the entire game goes, or if you have someone else you're ISOing in on, Rob?
Well, let's look at entire game, and let's just look at results rather than, I always say, to say somebody's such and such and such over or somebody's such and such under the total, that's all well and good. But the numbers change between all of those games, right? There was a time on this show, in fact, a long period of time up until this year, where we always used 240 as a total, as the line in the sand. Do we go over 240, under 240? That makes us stop and think. This game's pushing 250 now. And the way these teams are playing in the NBA, some of these teams in the NBA now, we might be using 250 as the line in the sand. But what we're looking at tonight, 249, you're talking to a guy who likes to play overs. There's no way possible I could play this game over. There's just no way in heck. The San Antonio Spurs, for what it's worth, guys, if you use 249 as the guideline, which is what they have to get to tonight, the Spurs have played 17 games this year. 13 of those have gone under 249. Only 3 have gone over. 1 was a push. 13-3-1 under 249. So to say the Spurs are an over team is great, but they're not an over 249 team. The Atlanta Hawks, to say they're an over team is great. You know what? They're 14-3, 17 games they played 14 times. Their games have ended less than 249. So I'm glad I have Steve Merrill here to help me, but I did the math myself, Steve. So I don't. I think my calculator's good enough here. If I combine these two teams where 249 is concerned, guys, every game they played this year, they're 27-6-1 under that number, 249. At some point, the odds makers price you out. Am I telling you the game can't go 250 or better? No, but I'm telling you it's probably not advantageous to try it out here. Victor Wembanyama is still a question mark for this game. If he doesn't go, really where are the Spurs going to get the points? I'm going to look under 249 for 248 for purposes of this segment, guys, but that's 81.8%, Steve, of the time. Like I say, I did the math. I have a calculator that these two teams have played under 249 this year.
And Vino whipping out the abacus and really dropping some
like
numbers there, Steve. You got to be proud, man. That's.
Did I get it right,
this, Rob?
Robbie B.
No, Rob, it's an excellent point, though, because I keep using the Iowa football analogy, and the game this week is 35. And I talked about this on WagerTalk today. Each of the last 7 Iowa games that have all stayed under lower totals have still totaled 34 or less. So you're kind of onto something, right? Because you can kind of start to see if they've overpriced or not. And that's why with the Iowa game, I don't think they have. But you bring up an excellent point that at some point they do price these too high. And I think that's a good way to look at it.
I think one thing that you guys are both touching on too, that's something that I have learned from my time with WagerTalk and really talking with people who are doing this for a living, is that so often you're just talking about the numbers. Like recreational bettors so often get caught up in this team versus this team or this player versus that player. Like if you are doing this the way you should be doing it, it is all about what is the number that I'm getting, what makes sense with that number. And Steve talks about it all the time, taking the approach that you would take in the stock market. And it is you're trying to snipe off numbers. You're trying to make those numbers make sense. So I'm glad you guys dove in on that a little bit more because I completely agree. And I think that's something that especially NBA fans and NBA recreational bettors get lost in sometimes is what is the numbers, make them make sense. And that's what these guys do for a living. So if you like what you've been hearing, hit that like button, please. It's a great way to help us grow in the better way. Tell people about us and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss any of the shows that we're dropping here. This one notwithstanding. But guys, one of my favorite things when I get to fill in for Joe, like I always say, I get to hear this sounder. Robert, cue it up. That's my dog time.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog.
I hit him up. Welcome on back here. I said I love the sounder so much that it literally broke the entire show, guys. Like I don't know how it happens. I don't know why it happens, but we are back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Happy if you stayed here with us. And yes, I'm not going to try and make the system crash again, guys. So I'm just going to have to go without the sounder. So that's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. All right, you got to get a little live one. The board looks juicy though, boys. We got some double-digit dogs on there, some 8.5s. We got a 2.5, a little short dog, a little weenie dog, if you will. Andy, I'll start with you. What are you thinking here? What's looking a little juicy to you at a little plus money peach?
Yeah, so I did the Clippers when I first picked them. They were like plus 5.5, plus 4.5. Now Chris Paul is out, Gary Payton's out, Andrew Wiggins is out. So this has changed a little bit, but I'm still getting 2.5 points on the Clippers, and I don't really understand it. This Warriors team, they're just not that good. So here's who they've beaten this year: twice Houston, twice Sacramento, New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Detroit, and San Antonio. That's it. Like they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They blew it against Sacramento. And this Clippers team might be getting a little bit more confident. They beat Sacramento and Dallas in 2 out of the last 3. And the last 10 games, the Clippers have both a better offensive and defensive rating than the Golden State Warriors. So I think this Clippers team wins outright. I don't even need the points. I like them at plus 5.5. I love them at plus 2.5. They're going to win outright tonight. I think the Warriors' struggles continue.
Leave the points at the door. Hey, don't worry. Even when we crash, we're going to get you some nice barking dogs here. And Andy saying leave them at the door with the clip show. I like it. Out below in the comments and let us know what dog you're eyeing tonight. Steve, we'll swing it back on up your way. Who on that nice juicy board are you eyeing to back as a dog this evening?
Yeah, I missed the beginning. I just want to know if Dan Alexander got a James Harden Philadelphia reference in while Andy was talking about the Clippers tonight.
I should have. I should have.
You should have. You missed your opportunity for another Philly reference.
I fumbled.
We're going to look at – you did fumble. Fumbled in basketball. It's a turnover. Turnovers kill. Hey, look, speaking of teams that kill the bankroll normally is the Portland Trailblazers, but that has not been the case here in recent games. I talked about earlier how they pulled that upset against the Indiana Pacers in their last time out on Monday. Well, don't look now. They've won 2 out of 3 straight up. They've won 3 in a row against the spread. In fact, they pushed against the Suns before that. So their last 4 games, they've been very competitive. Their only loss in the last 3 was by 6 at Milwaukee as a 13-point dog. They went outright as that 12-point dog. I think they're a live dog tonight. I'm not necessarily going to call the outright upset, but Portland Trailblazers plus 12, I think can keep it within single digits at Cleveland.
Keeping it tight in Cleveland, says our man Steve Merrill. Final dog of the day before we get some best bets. Maybe there'll be a dog in there. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. But Rob, who are you eyeing on that nice juicy plus money board?
I'm not eyeing much of anything on that plus money juicy board there because that's one of the driest.
There's some ugly
dogs
dogs
I've
on
ever
there.
Seen. Yeah, I would have preferred to and I'll endorse what Andy and Steve both said ahead of me because I would have preferred to talk about either one of those underdogs. But I'll give you one that you have to hold your nose, go ahead and play. And Joe, if you're watching later on, been busting my, what's about taking games close to pick as underdogs all the time. But I'll go ahead and march out on that ledge with the Pistons plus the 14.5 here. The 14.5 it could be too large for situational reasons, Dan, and situational reasons only, because you can't make a fundamental case in this game for the Pistons, right? The Knicks are a really good defensive team. The Pistons have been so soft defensively all season long. They've been beaten by 23 or more in 4 of their last 5 games. However, as bad as it's been for Detroit, when they're on the road as an underdog this year, they're still 4-5 against the spread. It's very close to being a 500 spread team on the road. The Knicks not known for pouring on points offensively, and the Knicks have a back-to-back situation here. They play Toronto in Toronto tomorrow. So could the Knicks get a lead and pull guys early 4th, Andy mentioned last night's Laker game where they had a big lead and pulled all their guys. They didn't play a lot of minutes. And I think the Knicks could do the same here, which could open a fourth quarter door at this price range, plus 14.5 for the Pistons. So that's the way I'm going to look. I know they've been terrible all season long. And again, they haven't brought much in the way of defense, but situationally, this could be a good spot for the Pistons to sneak in under the 14.5 number.
Some ugly dogs on the board for sure. So make sure you check them for fleas, check them for worms. But that is the dogs for the day from our guys. Let's get some best bets. All this actionable info we gave you all show long and a technical difficulty. And we still got best bets to come. Man, you gotta love it. Throw a like for these guys getting you winners on the regular for free here, and check them out over at WagerTalk.com. Before we get to best bets, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that if you've been checking us out here, you purchased from WagerTalk before, whether you haven't, tomorrow is a great day to try it out. Code FILLITUP, FILLITUP, will get you 25% off anything you can buy. You can put whatever you want in your cart, take 25% off using that promo code tomorrow, a little Friday. Thanks for the viewers here across the board. Let's talk some best bets, though, here, Steve, and we'll start with you. What do you got? We'll get the 1 minute shot clock up for you and let us know what we're betting tonight in NBA action.
Yeah, going to look at a free NBA play for tonight on Thursday. Just a quick reminder, now is a great time to be an All Sports client. December starts tomorrow. I've got 3-day, 30-day, and 365-day special discounted promo codes on my page right now for All Sports All Access. By the way, we're talking NBA. Number one in 2023. I'm over 35 net games here this calendar year. Number one in the NBA. Number one the last couple years in college and pro football sides combined. College hoops a couple years ago, number one as well. Nice start in all sports. Check it out right now and save big. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com for whichever All Sports All Access package works best for you. Special discount this week on my page. All right, free play in the NBA tonight, 8 o'clock East. You're going to look at a total. Milwaukee, Chicago, over 229. These teams played earlier this season, back about 2 weeks ago, mid-November. Game landed 227, and that was with the Bulls shooting just 38% from the field. They've been playing a little bit better offensively, but they're not a good defensive team. Over 50% on average the last 5 games. Bucks score big tonight over Bulls Bucks.
Muted, Dan.
Yeah, there we go. You knew I would have to be muted by the end of the show. You knew that was the lock of the century, gentlemen. What I was saying was that Steve Merrill letting you know everything that was over at his page, wt.buzz/SM, starting the handicap with 20 seconds left on the clock and still getting it done before the buzzer. That's the Merrill difference right there. 2 R's, 1 L. Andy, let's see what you're cooking up here. I know you got a prop play that you're liking tonight. Let's get the minute ready to go for my man Andy. I'll make sure I leave my mic on as you let us know what our best bet is tonight.
I am going to be playing a player prop under, and this is a guy that has crazy home road splits. You take his over points total when he's on the road, and you take his under points total when he is at home. And I have to mention, we do have a promo code up, LANG7, LANG7. It gets you a 7-day pass for $69. We ran this special last week across WagerTalk, and I went 14-6 last week. And we're on a 28-9 run across all sports, 6-1 in NFL. We got a best bet up for that one as well. On a nice 16-8 start to the NHL season. Promo code LANG7 gets 7 days for $69. All sports, all percentages. And the player I was talking about is none other than Klay Thompson, averaging 12.8 points at home and over 18 on the road. 8-1 to the under on home games. His total sits at 18.5 the last 4 games. Clippers, 6th best defensive road team. Give me Klay Thompson under his points.
Man, that was well done, Andy. It was like a Quentin Tarantino movie where like you didn't know which was coming, which scene was going to end it. Is Jules still alive or is he dead? And then we find out it's Klay Thompson right at the end. Terrific job out of my man Andy Lang. Rob Vino, you're going to get the final say here, my guy. What do you got for your best bet? Get that minute clock ready for my man Vino, as he's probably going to go over.
Hey, I never go over. Come on now. I'm master at this after 4 years. Hey, I'm going to go. The Indiana team total is one that I would recommend to folks out there. We talked about that earlier, going over with that one. But I'm going to go to Brooklyn here, guys. They're undefeated as a favorite this season. They're 6-0 as a favorite against the spread. They're 5-0 as a home favorite. They play a Charlotte team that's just decimated where guards are concerned. And as soon as LaMelo Ball went down, what happened? Charlotte scored 91 points and shot miserably. You go through the rotation of players in that game, and you're going to find out that they just don't have enough scorers here. Meanwhile, Brooklyn has shot the ball tremendously well from three-point range. Charlotte's not a good three-point defense. I think Brooklyn gets this one by 10 plus here. Can't see Charlotte doing much defensively. Real quick here, so as long as everybody's promoting college football, last 10 weeks, #1 handicapper at WagerTalk. Find my stuff, wagertalk.com.
Man, look at that. I talk a little smack and Rob says, I'll see you. Get it done by the buzzer. How about that? Gentlemen, terrific show. Hop below in the comments and let us know what you're going to be betting. Joe Berneri will be back tomorrow. So big thanks to Steve Merrill, Andy Lang, and Rob Vino. And of course, Robert doing a terrific job behind the scenes. Thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow getting you the actionable info you know and love. And like I said, make sure you hit that bell so you can bet every sport you love. All the tools you need are right here on Wager Talk TV. Best of luck tonight, everyone.